Show that. Yes, hello everyone. How's it going? What's the crack? My name is Michael and welcome back to the nightclub podcast, where today I have my second ever guest who I'll introduce in just a second before I run through, or after I run through, just a couple of quick things. Again, thank you so much to everybody for all their support, for getting in touch and interacting with the Instagram and the Twitter page. It has been fantastic and I really appreciate it. So at Michael Lavery 98 on Twitter and the McLav podcast on Instagram if anybody else wants to get involved. And of course we're on YouTube now as well. So if anybody wants to head on over there and subscribe, I feel like I'm always hearing YouTubers say that. So I feel like that's the lingo I have to go with. Subscribe to the channel. And apologies if the quality isn't great. I'm trying to fix out my light and whatever else to make it look as professional as possible. But listen, we'll set all that aside for the minute, and I'll introduce today's guest is Niamh Campbell from Belfast, who is an amateur boxer, a journo like myself, and a member of the East Belfast GAA club. Niamh, how you doing?
Oh, good. Thanks, Nick, for having me on. I didn't realise at the start, by the way, I was your second ever guest, so I feel very proud.
Yes, so it's yourself, and the first guest was Curtis McCosh from Cool FM, so you're up there with the legends of the podcast game, yeah. So for those listening or watching at home, basically today what we're going to do is, it's just more like it's an interview, but it's a chat. Just want to talk about Niamh's boxing or career as an amateur boxer, what she does as a journalist or freelance writing, and then the role of women in sports, which is a very important topic to talk about and isn't probably talked about enough. So I want to get Niamh's opinion and voice on that. And then East Belfast GAA, we'll talk a little bit about it, answer your questions as you've all sent in, and then we'll finish off with another round of random questions like we did when Curtis was on. So before we start, do you have yourself and your boyfriend have your own podcast as well? Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Just I'll do a bit shameless plug-in. Yeah, so we have me and Lee, so Lee Costello and myself, we have the His and Hers boxing podcast, which was like, you know, whenever you're proud of yourself, Michael, like whenever you're like planning a podcast, like we had it in the pig green for ages, like months, and kept sort of being like, oh, like we'll do this, and then needed the equipment and all the rest of it. And then I started doing a podcast through my full-time job anyway. So then I was like, well, got the equipment, and then started doing His and Hers boxing, because there's so much boxing content out there at the minute. But I feel like again, you know yourself, like a lot of it is like male orientated or male dominated, and with His and Hers, like it just gives a bit of different perspective. So we talk about pro boxing mostly, but also amateur boxing, and men and women, and then we get both guests on. So yes, we've been doing that, and we started the first episode. Obviously we didn't know lockdown was going to happen in March, and the first episode we were talking about John O'Carroll's fight against Scott Quigg in March, and then the whole thing went into lockdown. So we're like, of course we started this podcast at long last right before the nation collapsed. Yeah. So, but yeah, we've been doing it. We got because then all the boxers were obviously not doing anything over lockdown, so we got lots of good interviews on there, especially a lot of the Belfast boxers. So yeah, still keeping it going, and actually have an episode to do this week, and we're interviewing Rachel Ball on Sunday. So yeah, still going strong.
How did you cope with the lockdown? You know, being a boxer, you weren't ready to punch the head off anyone or any walls or anything. Get a dig now?
Like, I'm lucky because me and Lee both box. We went to the boxing club because he has keys, and we got some equipment and took it home, and like we have pads and our own gloves, and then like took a few weights home and things like that. And obviously, like during lockdown, thank God we got like a good bit of sunshine, so we went outside and did a bit of stuff and did running and stuff like that. But yeah, like it's not the same. It's not the same atmosphere as being in a boxing club and having actual boxing bags. And then it's a bit crap too, because like there's nothing to work towards. And then obviously today with the new restrictions, all the sports are off now. So the last night of our boxing club will be tomorrow, and then it's just back to it's awful, like, because no one knows what's going to happen. Literally, yeah, because then whenever we come out of lockdown, like I assume it'll just be, yeah, like probably like the pubs, you'll have to eat food again, like wet pubs won't be open straight away, and same with the boxing clubs and all the sports, you know, it'll go back to being as cautious as ever. But sure, what can we do? Everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah, no, my phone's been going mental from everybody back home. It's all a bit wild. So like with the boxing, like how did you get into it? Was it something that you were brought up with? Is it in your family, or how did you get involved with boxing?
Definitely not my family. My family would be big into like soccer and the GAA and stuff. But so basically, again, my boyfriend Lee, about 3 years ago now, did a white collar charity boxing event to raise money for cancer. But like purely, he didn't even, like, God forgive me, not that he didn't care about raising the money, but he just wanted to do it to get the fight and to train. And so I went and watched that in the Crown Plaza in Belfast, and I was like, oh my God, this is actually class. Like, I'd never really probably watched a boxing fight before. I know, well, I had, but I mean, like, not in person. But I was like, this is a really good atmosphere. And he lost loads of weight and got so fit and strong. And I was like, it'd be such a good challenge. And then, like, it was so weird, no joke. Like 2 days later, I worked in PwC at the time in an office, and an email went around the entire firm saying they were putting on a white collar fight for charity, like, through the company. So that was through the boxing club I am part of now. So that was City of Belfast Boxing Academy in East Belfast. So went there, trained for 10 weeks, like, didn't miss a session, did my white collar fight, and like loved it. Do you have a fire alarm?
I meant to say that before we started. It's Wednesday. The fire alarms get tested. I actually have a note here that I meant to circle before we started.
Just like no one's trying to rob you or something.
No panics. It's I was waiting on it. It usually gets done at like 11 o'clock, and it's now 2:45. So for anyone listening or watching, don't worry, we're not being robbed or evacuated. That was just a minor mishap.
No, you're grand. I didn't even care. But it was just like, as long as no one's trying to break into your house.
No, I think we're all grand for now.
Okay. But yeah, no. So then went up to the boxing club, and then lost a lot of weight and got fit, and really, really loved it. And went even on the nights so we trained. Not on club nights, like PwC trained on different nights, but then I went to the club nights as well. And like, I'd grown up playing GAA, not even for that long. No, I played from I was like 14 till I was 17. So I was into sports, but like not die hard in any way. And then I just liked it so much because with boxing, like, I know I do GAA now again, but with boxing, like, it's all on you. Like, you're fully accountable. So like, if something goes wrong in a football match, or even if you're watching a football match, you could blame a teammate, or a teammate could blame you. But in boxing, it's like, it's all on you. So it means that, like, whenever you mess up, like, yeah, you have to take full responsibility, but it also means that your successes are so much more sort of like great as well, because it's such a personal achievement. So that's how I really got into it, all through like a white collar charity fight, and just sort of coincidence that it happened straight after I had watched my boyfriend in one and wanted to join.
From the white, did you ever like think then, like, was that it at that time? Did you think, well, I've done this white collar fight, I'll stick here? Or was it ever, right, I want to do a bit more of this? And is that sort of how it went?
It sort of was like I didn't want to continue doing white, like just looking for white collar fights, because then it's like, a lot of money raising stuff. And like, when Lee did his, he had to sell so many tickets to even be, and not even that was going towards charity, just to be able to fight. So I just sort of was one of these things where I was like, sure, I'll just keep going and see what happens. Like did sparring and stuff like that as well, like sparred a few of the lads. Like, I was so, like, this is the funny thing too, like, I think people think you just go into boxing, it's like, oh great, you're a boxer, like you must have naturally always had that in you. Like, I was so awful. Like, I went in and like, do you know, it's like your instinct, just fight or flight. Like, I would turn away, like literally would be like, wouldn't even notice I was doing it, turn away, turn my back, like close my eyes, look down. Like, you're obviously going to get hurt if you close your eyes. Like, it really wasn't, it wasn't something that came to me naturally, but like, I literally didn't miss a session, and I kept going. And I remember one night, I think everyone that did the white collar had this at some stage in the 10 weeks. Like, I just came home one night and Lee was like, well, how'd you get on tonight? And I just burst out crying, because I was like, oh, like, it wasn't even like, my problem was never with getting hurt or, being wrecked. Like, that was never a thought. I was so afraid of getting in front of loads of people and being embarrassed and making like a show of myself, or falling, or like getting knocked out or something like that. So for me, that was always the main thing. So I just had like gotten so frustrated one night with like the footwork, and I just came home and I was like, but like, I think I had the mindset like I was never going to give up. And then I just really like, I just kept going and kept seeing, like, never really thought about what was going to happen next. And yeah, here we are.
And then, so you say now you're part of the City of Belfast Boxing Academy?
Yeah.
What sort of, like, is it like all different age groups, or what way does it work in?
Yeah, well, it's a wee bit different now because of lockdown and COVID restrictions and stuff. But it's so in amateur boxing, you can't actually be entered into fights until you're 11. So most boxing clubs take you from your like about 9 upwards. So you get 2 years of training, and then you're ready to go. But yeah, we would take all age groups. Like we would even take as young, like there weren't that many kids this young. We would take some kids as young as 6. Um, just to kind of get them in and get them started. But we would take right up until you can't then fight in amateurs when you're over 40. But we would have over 40s that would come. Like one of our coaches is like, well, the head coach is over 40, but one of the other coaches is over 40, but he still like spars and fights himself and stuff. And like within the club, like really, really mad age groups. Like, yeah, loads of people just come as well to sort of keep fit, but they do like they want to get in, they want to spar, and they want to have a go. So yeah, lots of teenagers as well. Like I didn't start until I was 23. So I'm probably one of like the latest starters. But yeah, sort of everyone and anyone.
Yeah, no, it seems it's like even in Lurgan as well. And I know there's definitely two clubs in Lurgan, and you always see the people run about with sort of the gear on them, the tracksuits and whatever else. And it's a lot popular than what I thought it was, put it that way, because I just, growing up was, oh, it's just football clubs and just, that's it. But then you'd say someone's like, oh, I'm going to training. Like, where are you heading? Oh, boxing training. It's like, oh, I didn't know, I didn't really know that was a thing. And then one of our local clubs, their old youth club was like torn down and then rebuilt as a boxing club. So there's like proper like good facilities now in the town. So yeah, it's a lot more popular definitely than what I thought it was. Whenever you're fighting or whenever you've like been to different places, like what would you say, or where would you say is like your favorite place? Like where's your favorite place you've ever fought, or like favorite gym or whatever you've been to?
Well, like, see, to be honest, it's been really hard to actually get me like proper carded fights because there's sort of a lack of female boxing in Northern Ireland in general. But we would have a really good relationship with Midlands, which is Frampton's amateur gym. So I like going down there. They actually don't take girls either. Well, I don't know whether just girls don't want to go to it now, but so Billy McKee is the guy that started that up, and he's Frampton's amateur coach, and he would have come around again, like he's in his 80s now, so he doesn't come around anymore because of COVID, but he would have come around to like help coach and stuff, and he was really against oh, you're grand.
Usually doesn't go off twice. This might actually be serious.
We'll go check.
Right. This is going to take quite a bit of editing. If I've just left this in and people are watching this, it's just because I got lazy and I thought it would be funny. So there's a double fire alarm there for you. It never happens twice. I know I actually may go check the kitchen or something in case the toaster's been left on. It never happens twice. And of course, whenever I go on to a Zoom call, I wouldn't put it past it happening again.
No, that is typical Saul's Law. We have a house phone in the flat that I never even knew worked. I was doing a podcast last week and it was like a scam. Like I started ringing and I was like, out of all the days. But like Billy would have been he's really old school. He would have been against females fighting. Like he wouldn't have let not because he's his dick or anything, but just that's the way the older generation were brought up, and girls didn't box. Like Katie Taylor had to pretend to be a fella in all her amateur fights as a kid and stuff.
Did she really?
Yeah, she would have she put there's a really good documentary about her on Netflix. I don't know if it's still up, but I think it's just called Katie. But she would have like, you obviously have to wear the headgear. Yeah. She'd like put the hair up and like put a swimming cap or whatever on, put the headgear on.
I've seen something about this before. That's mental. That's really, really crazy.
Like, women's boxing wasn't even allowed in the Olympics, so I don't blame Billy, but like for so long he would have been like, females don't fight, they're not allowed in my club or whatever. But then he would come around to our club and he would chat, oh my god, he'd chat to you for ages, and like I think we sort of warmed his heart a wee bit more. So I do like going around, and I've sparred some of the fellas in Midlands too, so I do like going around there because it is cool seeing all like the Frampton posters and stuff. Like they have all the stuff from all of his fights, and it's just something different as well.
Yeah, that it definitely seems like it would be something that for someone that was so used to never having women fight or involved in it, that it would take a bit of getting used to, I would say. But it's good, like, and especially now because it's so popular. And as you said, Katie Taylor is like one of the most popular athletes in all of Ireland. So it just shows how far and how much it's come on. So like, speaking of Katie Taylor, like who, like, is she, like, would she be like an inspiration? Who's like your boxing like hero? Like, who inspires you, or like who inspired you whenever it come to like watching other people box?
When it came to like, so again, Lee would have been like quite a big boxing fanatic, and he would have like taught me a lot of stuff. But I always knew who, right, okay, I always knew who Mike Tyson was. Obviously, I think everyone who knew who Mike Tyson was because of The Hangover and stuff like that. But then I started getting into watching fights and started getting into watching old fights and stuff. And I'm actually wearing a Mike Tyson top at the minute. I didn't plan that for the day. An Iron Mike top. But when I started watching back, and like I read his book and stuff, I started like watching back his old fights. Like, he is, in terms of like all-time boxers, he is probably like my favorite, just because he genuinely was psychotic. Like, there was something wrong with his head. And like, whenever he actually went to therapy, that's when he stopped being as good of a boxer, because they kind of like fixed his head a bit. But his style of boxing, like peekaboo, and he was just knocking people out for fun, and he was just so exciting. And like, for a heavyweight boxer, he was actually really small and like unconventional. So he's probably like my all-time favorite boxer in that regard. But like, in terms of like female fighters, like, yeah, Katie Taylor definitely, because of the fact she's Irish as well, and her whole story. I think with Katie Taylor too, the reason I like her so much is like, she's quite not quiet, but like, she wouldn't be as like, how boxers try to sell themselves in the trash talk a lot, like Tyson Fury and all, like just constantly slag their opponents off. And in a way, it's a business. Like, they need to sell tickets and they need to make money, so it's it's entertainment as well. But she doesn't even need to do that. Like, she just, like, her boxing actually speaks for itself. She doesn't need to. I'm sure a lot of people don't even know what Katie Taylor even sounds like. But she's just such a good role model in that way, because she just like, she shows it through her actions. So yeah, she's definitely the biggest inspirational, probably female wise for me. But there's so many upcoming now too, so it's really good to see. And she obviously paved the way for all of them as well, even the ones not from Ireland.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a great time for the sport, and especially when you see the likes of Katie Taylor and bigger name, like, not so much like people talk about the likes of Conor McGregor and stuff coming over. It's not so much that, it's like, there's so much exposure to it now. And one of the questions actually asked about it later, because you've got the likes of all the YouTube boxing events and all these massive events. It's bringing so many people, but like, I've definitely noticed in the last while, like, the popularity of the sport has just went like through the roof compared to what I would have normally seen. I would never have seen a lot of boxing coverage, maybe just the odd Saturday night. Oh, there's a fight on. Yeah. Oh, who's fighting? I would never have paid much attention to it now, but now you see it all the time, and it's like, it's all over the place.
Yeah, definitely. I actually think as well, though, like, there's so, like, people be more surprised at girls following the boxing and watching the boxing over girls actually doing boxing. Yeah. Like, we were at, I can't remember who Ryan Burnett was fighting. If it's your man, it begins with 2 Z's, and I can never remember his name, but he was fighting him in the Odyssey about 3 years ago, and we had like sort of front row tickets, and these like 10 lads parked in front of us or whatever, and they were all drinking and start turning around talking to me about how they had been like in Ibiza or something, and Ryan Burnett's last fight was on the TV, and like, it was great, so they all decided to come and watch him whenever he was fighting the Odyssey, and they all met up and had a piss up again, and they were there just like for like a drinking session. Yeah. And they talked to me, and I think they'd assumed that my boyfriend had dragged me there, and I didn't really care, but I was sort of like, and I was like, can you shut the fuck up, because I'm trying to watch it. And then they're like, oh, like, and then like, to be really surprised that you're actually into watching it.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And it's just, that's actually more annoying, I think, than people who are like, oh, do you do boxing? And then they're like, oh, so do you do it for a bit of fitness then? Do you do exercise? And like, no, like, I actually go to a boxing club, and I actually
take the head off people for enjoyment.
Yeah, and I actually like watching it and keeping up with it, whereas like so many of these like fake fans love going, and it is like a good piss up or whatever, like, it's a great night out, but yeah, they go for that reason, and they can't believe that like girls actually like watching it and analysing it and stuff like that.
It gives them a bit of a culture shock, definitely. Right, I'll pump the brakes on grilling you about your boxing for now. We'll talk more about your journalism and your so you just finished, was it a master's you just finished, was it?
Yeah, so I like officially graduated in December last year.
Happy days. So like, why journalism? What was the reasoning behind that, or is there any sort of story or anything?
Always wanted to write, like, was always, English was like my best subject in school. Was like probably horrible, everything else, like hated math and science and the rest of it. Always loved writing, like used to make up stories and stuff, like whenever I was a kid and a pure weirdo. But I did a journalism GCSE. I'm originally, like, I'm from Tyrone. I'm from like near Dungannon.
Oh God, Tyrone.
I've lived in Belfast like 8 years now, but I'm from Tyrone, so I went to the academy in Dungannon, and they actually did a journalism GCSE, which was like rare enough. Like, I don't think many schools do that. And then really liked it, but like your careers advisors never ever advised journalism. Like, if you're good at English, it was like go into law or teaching. So then, like, I was like, no, and then went into Queen's and did just like a straight undergrad in English literature and linguistics, and then came out of that in 2016, and I was just sort of like, what am I going to do? Worked in, didn't want to be a teacher. I kept thinking, will I go to England and do my PGCE? And then worked in hospitality for a bit. Worked in, then got a graduate job in PwC, just like doing like general financial services stuff. Like, you could get in with like any sort of discipline, like any degree, and did that for a bit and saved up. And then, like, I always wanted to be a journalist, but I was always sort of like, people always told me there's no jobs in journalism, you know, like blah blah, you need to go to London for all the top jobs. And then I knew people that had done the journalism masters that I did in Ulster University in Coleraine, and it just seemed that like there's lots of routes into journalism, but a lot of the top journalists in Northern Ireland did that masters. And I'm also from like a really working class background, so masters, like student loans to do a master's only came in like, I think 2016, 2017. So like, you had to save up like the $5,500 yourself, or like your family had to give you to do your master's. So whenever the loan came in to be able to do that, like I just got that, and yeah, just went and done it, and sort of like went back to work in hospital, like left a really stable job, like with a secure salary coming in each month. And it was like, I had to put a lot of thought into it. I was like, is this really what I want to do? And I was like, no, I can't see myself working in financial services the rest of my life. I would kill myself. So saved up, and then traveled from Belfast to Coleraine every day for 4 days a week, and went back to working in a hotel for a year. And like, it was grim. I was so broke for the year, but like, I swear to God, like, I haven't looked back. It's the best decision I ever made.
I'd say that was quite a tough commute, 4 days a week, like the Belfast to Coleraine.
Oh, like, I think it's something. I got the train because I live like really close to a train station. I think it was 3 hours traveling a day, and at the start you're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll use that time to do my work. I ended up sleeping most of the time.
Never. My girlfriend's the same. She actually goes to Coleraine. She's in her final year now and doing biomed, and like from first year she's been like, all right, I'll get the train, because she would have come home at weekends and was just going back up then on the Sunday or the Monday. She's like, she would have got the 6 o'clock train on a Monday morning. To then like get a change in Belfast, and you know, the rest of the 2.5 hours up then to Coleraine. She's like, right, I'll be real productive. And maybe in that 45 minutes from Lurgan to Belfast, was like, okay, right, I've notes made, I've this done, I've like two days planning done, and then you get a text 2 hours later, oh, I slept from Botanic to Coleraine.
That's exactly right. And fair play to her, because like she was getting that train at 6. Like, I had to work it out too. Like, if you had a 9 a.m. lecture, like, you had to be up.
Oh my God.
And getting it at 6, and you're like, oh, like, you feel like half your day is done before you even went to the class.
Like, I was getting up, I was on my way into work, and like I would like maybe open like text messages or Snapchat or something, and there's like 4 like different Snapchats with like the time filter on it, and it's like, okay, so there's 5 o'clock, there's 5:30, and it's pitch black, and I'm like, I've been sleeping for so long, and you've done so much already today. But like, she's done it and she's flying with it, and like, she managed the Coleraine experience and the work / like Kelly's balance. So like, I don't know if you ever had that dilemma of, you know, what I do, a bit of revision or what, head to Kelly's for the night, but I feel like it's part and parcel with the Coleraine experience.
Definitely. I didn't really, because I was like, what age am I? I was like 24 going into the masters, because I was like, well, I live down, and then already lived with my boyfriend in Belfast, and his friend actually moved in with us for that year, so that helped out with the rent and stuff. But I was like, no, I'll not live down and stuff. And then some nights I stayed behind and I drank and stuff, and I would have got the last train home. But a load of the people doing the masters were, I sort of in their mid-20s, and I was thinking, oh God, I wish I was sort of 18 to 21 again. I would be going to Kelly's. But I did. My friend did an undergrad in Coleraine, so I went down there and stayed with him a few times. So I have the Kelly's experience down.
It's definitely if you've never done it, and for those listening or watching at home, like if you've never been to Kelly's, it's hard to explain. It's a world of its own.
There's an ice cream. Is there still an ice cream fan in the middle of the dance floor? Like, but it's like a DJ.
The last time I was there was a full blown chippy at the back of it. I got cheesy chips one night in it, and it was the best experience I've ever had ever.
Oh, Henry, I remember the last time I was there, like a few years ago when my friend was doing undergrad. No, actually, do you know what? No, this is ages ago. His brother, the same friend, went to Coleraine for his undergrad. His brother did an undergrad in Coleraine, and we all went down and met this German lad, and he was just traveling. I was like, you've been traveling Europe and you've ended up in Kelly's of all places. And he came back to the house and was like doing shots of vodka with us and all. Like, he was knocking them back over water because he was German, and that was nuts. I just remember thinking, like, imagine traveling the world and you find yourself in Kelly's with us on a Wednesday night.
No, anyone who knows me knows the story of myself and my best mate when we went to Kelly's. And I'll tell it briefly because for those that haven't, it's absolutely hilarious. So me and my mate, we went up and we stayed with my girlfriend in her uni accommodation. I actually know she had they were renting a house, and there's pre-drinks and whatever else, and I had too much, so I had an early night, and so she stayed in with me, and he went on out, and without giving him too much death, he wasn't be the best fella for directions or common sense. So he went out with the rest of the ones in the house, and then the end of the night came, and I was like finally coming out of this like blinded state, and rang him. He was like, "Where are you? The girls are just home." He was like, "Oh, I'm on the bus." He's like, "Oh, like you've missed the stop. The girls are all off the bus." And he was like, "Oh, right, okay, I'll get off at the next one. Come meet me." I was like, "Well, I'm not really in any state to come meet you, like, but just get off and ring me and I'll direct you." 20 minutes go by, no word from him. I says, "Tap the people in front of you. I can hear people talk. Ask them where you are." And he's like, "Oh, Larry, this bus is going to Jordanstown." he got on the wrong bus.
University.
He went to Kelly's, was meant to get the bus back just into Port Stewart, got on the wrong bus and ended up in Jordanstown.
Like, it's not even, it would even be even better.
Close.
It's not even Belfast though. Like, Jordanstown is like so far out on its own too.
He was on the phone to me and he pulled the taxi over and he said like, I'm going to ask this taxi man to bring me to Coleraine. And I said, "Don't do that. Like, that's going to cost you so much money." And they pulled him over, and the man was like, he tried to explain whatever. Long story short, he ended up in Belfast. He went out to Kelly's and ended up in the Holy Lands.
Like, in fairness, I know a lot of people that go out in Dungannon and somehow end up in Holy Land. Yeah,
see, that's all right, because like if you're in Dungannon, like the Holy Land is like a beacon of light, so you're going to want to go that way. But if you're if you're in Kelly's, like I think you're well put where you are to just maybe stay there for the night. If you would just learn to get the right bus home. Probably watching this anyway. Sorry, Callum. I just roasted you there for no reason. And I was always going to tell it at some stage in this podcast, but I just felt like that was actually it's 2 years. It was 2 years ago yesterday. 2 years ago. And it still feels like it was yesterday. It was the funniest experience ever. Anyway, I've really went off track there. But yeah, Coleraine, Kelly's. If you've never been, you'll get it. So. The
Germans love it. Get there.
The Germans love it. Class. What a tagline. They should put that on a poster. Come to Kelly's. The Germans love it. So, right, you've done the journalism and you've done your masters, and now you're freelancing. Am I right in saying yes?
Yeah. So like I have a full-time role with Sync NI, which is like a Belfast-based, like it's online and print, but it's mainly focused on like business and technology in Northern Ireland. So that's like my full-time job, because I was very lucky too. I came out of uni and I was working in the hotel still and trying to do bits here and there. Like I'd done, like I'd helped out with the elections for BBC News and stuff. But then this full-time role came up, and my lecturer put into like a wee Facebook group. I just went for it and got it, because I'd done a bit of like, because I'd worked in PwC and I knew a bit like about like financial tech and stuff like that, so I had a bit of a background. So I have been working there for a year. In August it was, but then alongside that, I was still doing a bit of freelancing for the BBC, and now like I do a lot more now in the last month for BBC Sport. So buzzing about that, because I do love sport and I love writing about it and talking to athletes and stuff, because they like pride in yourself, like they have the best stories, like.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like it's sort of it's a wee bit of not creativity, but you've sort of that like slightly longer leash that you can go on and sort of talk about what you want.
Yeah, definitely.
It makes sense, and that sort of feeds nicely into what I was going to say then. So like whenever you have that sort of platform to talk about what you want, then you can sort of talk about things that maybe other people don't want to talk to. And this is sort of the conversation I want to have and want to talk about. And I want people to listen to it as well, about like the role of women in sports and maybe the stigma or sort of the taboo around women being in sports or women partaking in sports or sports media, because a lot more recently I've seen, especially on Twitter. Now I know Twitter, it can be a complete cesspool for just rubbish, but it's also a good tool, and like I use it for a lot of different things. But I see a lot of like journalists, women journalists who are like just graduating or have like are trying to get into the field, and the comments are just filled, the replies are just filled with, you're like, oh, what do you know, and like what's all this about? So like as a writer, like, and as someone who's in like journalism and sort of what's like, and for those that aren't watching the video, I'm using air quotes, like like it's a man's profession. Like, do you feel like, or have you ever felt any sort of like worry or sort of stigma that people are looking at you going, well, like especially with the sports side of things, that this isn't really like for a woman?
It's not even so much that I wouldn't say I'm like a big enough journalist or whatever yet. You know, like there's presenters, like there's definitely a lot of female presenters out there, like with the likes like Laura Woods and stuff on Sky Sports, you know, that probably face that a lot more. But no one's ever really, I've had people saying women's boxing isn't a real sport and stuff like that. But the thing that I think would more get to me is like a lot of people think that you're more likely to get a job in sports journalism now if you are a woman, because organizations are trying to like tick boxes, and you know, like I'm not gonna lie and say I know lots about rugby or cricket or, you know, like sports I don't know about, but like I'd be very interested in soccer and Gaelic football and boxing and like to a certain extent MMA. So like I could hold my own about that sort of stuff, like, and I would say I know a hell of a lot more about boxing than probably a lot of men. Not men journalists, like just men in general. So whenever people say like stuff like that, you know, oh, you're just getting it because, you know, they need to take some sort of diversity and inclusion box off. Like that annoys me, because I'm like, no, but I can hold my own, and I've probably got more credibility too because I've played these sports as well, and have friends and know a lot of athletes in them sports. So that would probably annoy me, but I haven't really faced too much backlash. The other thing is I feel like, and again, this does not happen to me, but I feel like a lot of female journalists, especially presenters, like their looks are so focused on, and you know, whether it's like overly sexualizing them because, you know, they're really good looking, or going the other way and, you know, like taking the piss out of their appearance. I'm just like, you really would. And it's sort of the same with women, and any women that are underrepresented in any sort of field. Like I'm like this, like, you know, no one looks at Jeff Sterling on Sky Sports and, you know, oh, he's looking stunning today, or, you know, he's gotten a bit old. Would he not use a bit of anti-wrinkle cream? You know what I mean? But I just feel like it's such a thing that's focused on with women. Personally, like I haven't like seen that, but I've seen it on Twitter and I've seen other female journalists being like, Jesus Christ, like, you know, like this is not my job. So yeah, definitely stuff like that would annoy me. Like,
yeah, no, it's, as I say, like, it's so clearly one rule for one and one rule for another for certain people who are like watching things, if that makes sense. As you say, if there's a woman on, they're going to watch the woman rather than watch the sports that they're given, like that they're presenting or whatever. Like in terms of like the boxing, like how do people react whenever you tell them like you're a boxer or that like you do boxing? I suppose, like, is there ever any sort of like I write or like sort of I fight me then, you know, sort of that sort of piss techie sort of reaction?
Yeah, do you know what? Taxi drivers in Belfast, I forgot to say, if I had £1 for every time a taxi driver in Belfast told me that they had boxed, I'd be a millionaire, because they all, and then you tell them, like, you know, and you only tell them if it's something like, I'm going to the boxing club here, or I'm going to a boxing fight or something. Like I've had taxi men put their hands up, like, no, this is actually pre-COVID, but like I'd be sitting in the front seat and they'd be like, oh, go on, punch my hand there. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, and they're like, you're like sitting in the front seat beside them, like, I'm like, right, well, first of all, I can't get in a boxing stance, and like I don't want to touch you. And I've had people who've never seen me box, never heard me talk about boxing, but you just say you box and then they start giving you tips. Like, this is me. Like I'm like, right, okay, thanks. stuff like that. Or like, yeah, I've had people, you know, you start talking about, I've had this with actually soccer too, you start talking about like you football or boxing, and then they just start like arguing your point and trying to make points, and then you end up actually knowing more than them, and then they're a bit like, I think they get a bit like emasculated, you know, stuff like that, and feel like, you know, like threatened. But yeah, I do think I've had people be surprised. I've had women too, like we would go to like council days that are like the councils put them on for free, so we would go down and volunteer and like take wee pads and wee gloves and stuff, and like kids passing by, but like, you know, do you want to have a go? And I've had a lot of like mothers being like, you know, we have like wee pink gloves to appeal. Don't know if that's feminist or not, but just to appeal to like 4-year-old girls. Yeah, and like pink pads and stuff, and because I'm the girl, I'm trying to get the wee girls over, and I've had like mums be like, oh no, like they'll let their wee boy come over to like one of the other male coaches, but then it's like, oh no, like that's not for girls and stuff, and I'm just like there's actually a madman cycling around Belfast at the minute stabbing women, and I'm like, would you not want your, like, you know, would you not want your
to like defend herself?
Yeah, to hold her own. Like, it's not even just about, it's not about violence, it's about discipline and like being able to hold your own, and like it builds like a real mental strength and a mental fortitude that's like good for any child or any person. Like, it doesn't matter whether they're a male or a female. Like,
Belfast is completely mental. I was scrolling through the news the other day, and I was just saying that it's completely like, taxi drivers, don't do that, you know, don't put your hand up for people to punch them, and fellas, don't go out and bike stabbing people. And I'm looking into the camera for this one because just wise up. Like, come on, wise up.
It's so nuts. It's like, out of everything in 2020 now, we have some boy running around stabbing women on a bike, like as if we needed that on top of everything else.
I wish I could say I was surprised, but with the way this year's going, we'll have the purge next week and it'll just fit right in.
Waiting for it.
Do you feel women are underrepresented in sport?
Yeah, massively, both in sports journalism and in sport. And there's a campaign, it's like an all-Ireland campaign, and it's called 2020, and it's about, like, if she can't see it, she can't be it. So it's about increase, and well, God love them too, like, because COVID happened, so what could they do? But it's about increasing participation in female sports by 20%, increasing media coverage about it by 20%, and increasing like attendance, so people going to like female sports matches. And that was really like, I was helping BBC Sport they covered the like cross country running, like athletics for the schools for the first time. Like, it was on the website. This is like way back at the start of the year. And there was like, I'll not mention his name, but there was like a Paralympian runner there. And the girl, whatever race it was, the boys went first and the girls went, but the girls had to run a shorter distance than the boys. And I was like, why is that? And he was like, his sister's also a runner. And he was like, my sister told me that it's because girls, especially around that age, you know, from sort of 14 onwards, like, are so afraid of like appearing sweaty and, you know, like manly and stuff. So to appeal to the girls to get them into the running more, they make the races shorter because they're more likely to then participate in it. And I was just like, that is like ridiculous. But like, I can kind of see their point, because like in school, I hated PE. I didn't like my PE teachers, but like I hated PE. I was just like, didn't want to look all sweaty and stuff, didn't want to have to run in front of the boys, because like at that age, like, you don't really have any self-esteem, like you don't even, like, your body and your face is constantly changing, like you're so nervous about what other people think of you. But like, I feel like sports are so pushed on boys at so much at that age, and they're really not pushed towards girls. And it's like, no, like, doing this will improve how you look, because like it just gives you better, like, you know, you'll get fit, you'll get toned, it'll give you, even take away all that, it gives you so much better mental health. Like, it releases endorphins, like it gives you so much, even more like social interaction, like you'll make so many friends, you'll get to go to events, like, you know, you gain such a like a feeling of accomplishment. And I feel like women are so underrepresented in sport because of that, because it's not really tackled at a young age. And even when it is, it's sort of like, oh well, the girls, you know, can get into dance, or in fairness, there's a lot of female participation in the GAA, I think, but even stuff like, you know, boys are more pushed into soccer or karate or like boxing and combat sports, but with girls it's like, oh, you can get into like Irish dancing or netball, you know what I mean? So it's just like breaking that sort of divide, even like within the sports themselves.
Do you think, like, my next question was like, do you feel women and girls have enough access to sport? But aside, like, as well as that, I would ask, the sports that they're being introduced to, like, as you mentioned, do you feel like it's a watered down version of what sports should be, just to get them involved?
It can be, and I don't mind them doing that because I do kind of see the point. And like at the end of the day, not all boys like sports, so not all girls are going to like sport either. Like I went to a leisure centre in Belfast for International Women's Day back in March, again right before lockdown, and like Paddy Barnes and like loads of boxers were there, and we had these girls from these like all-female schools coming in, and like one of the girls had like fake like acrylic nails on, and she was like, I'm not putting that boxing glove on my nails. And I'm like, right, dead on, like you don't have to, like sit down. Other girls like didn't want to do it. They're like, is this all we're doing all day? Like we thought this was just some sort of PE thing. And I'm like, right, that's grand. Like they don't all have to like boxing. They don't all have to like sports, because not all boys like sports either. But yeah, I feel like with girls, like they're just not pushed as much into it, and I feel like they're not encouraged. Like my sister played basketball for Northern Ireland ladies when she was younger, and I just feel like I remember even in like school assemblies, like the school basketball team, like the ladies school basketball team won so much and like had so many like accolades, and like it was just never really mentioned. And then it's like, but like the boys Gaelic team, even when they were doing crap, but it was like, oh, they put up like a really good fight, or they've done this, or like they had an achievement that was minor compared to like the girls, you know. Again, maybe that's just because like Gaelic football's obviously more popular here than than basketball is. But it's like, you know, how can you expect them girls to keep going and to be encouraged whenever like they're not getting the recognition they deserve? They're not getting the encouragement from adults that they deserve. So I definitely feel like, and it's also underfunded. Like I feel like, yeah, like a lot of like men's Gaelic coaches will get paid, but women's Gaelic coaches won't. So like the better coaches are going to go and coach the men's teams because they're going to be looking paid for it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, but it's just like, it's hard to iron all that out. Like,
no, it's tough. And especially at a time where they're trying to like get everybody involved, like all like when equality is such a strong subject at the minute, it's like, it's not that it's worrying. It's just like a bit like, oh, come on lads, like let's just even it up here. Do you know what I mean? I watched a live stream, or a bit of a live stream there a couple of weeks ago of like a camogie final. And it was class. It was unreal. Do you know what I mean? And like the passion, and then like a whole lot of the girls after they actually won the match. Like on Instagram, the celebrations and all after, like it just like it shows how rewarding it is, if that makes sense, for people to get involved. Like if you like, what would your words of encouragement be to anybody that's like sitting on the fence, or someone that's maybe not been in sports before? Like if you were to say that, like, right, what would you say to someone to try and get them into sports?
Well, like I think I'm probably one of the best people to do it, because I wasn't like, I didn't grow up sporty. I had tried sports, like I had no even whenever I was playing Gaelic football as a teenager, because the other girls, and they were my friends, like they were my friends from school and stuff as well, but they had been playing from they were like 4, from they were no age. I just had no confidence, and I was like, just like, you know, this isn't for me, blah blah blah. But like I genuinely do believe that there is like a sport out there for everybody, and if you don't like Gaelic football, or you don't like soccer, or you don't like netball or whatever, like you just need to keep trying until you find a sport that you do like, even if it's just like finding a sport that you want to watch. Because a lot of people, like, fitness is such a big thing now, and how we look is such a big thing because of social media. So like personal trainers and gyms have really taken off in the like, and fitness influencers in the last like 5 years. But like I just feel like personally, because I did that as well before I did boxing stuff, I went to a personal trainer a few years back, and it was grand, like went to the gym, but like it's just not, and that is grand, I still do that, but it's just not as fun or as fulfilling as doing a sport, because you just learn, like your mindset changes, like you just have such a different mindset, and it just makes you feel a lot more positive, and it gives you a different perspective on life. You meet different people, you meet people that you would have never met before doing sport. And I just think like it doesn't constantly have to be about winning and being competitive and, you know, being the best or being the fittest, but like the mental health aspects of it are like amazing. And I genuinely don't think it's too late to ever, like I didn't start boxing until I was 23, and like I don't think I'm going to be a pro or go to the Olympics or anything, but like I still love it, and I just don't think it's ever too late to take up any sort of sport like that. So I hear a lot of people like, oh, but I'm too old for that now. I'm like, you're really not. Like there's people in their 80s running marathons, you know what I mean? And I'm not asking you to be like that either, but like you really, it never is too late, as long as you sort of make the time and the effort. And I do think everyone can find something that they love.
No, definitely. And speaking of that, of availability and people being on the fence or trying new things, talk to me about East Belfast GAA. It was one of probably the story of the summer. It was amazing. The public response was fantastic. Tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, it was nuts, wasn't it? It all came from Dave McGreevy, who started the club. I think he just tweeted, being like, something like, would love to have a GAA club in East Belfast, and it sort of like got the ball, like snowballed. It got like, I think it went viral, and then it all kind of stemmed from there. But because my boxing club is in East Belfast, and I basically live on the edge of South and East Belfast, pardon me. But that's where I wanted to go, because I spend most of my life there anyway. I think it got so much attention too because, again, like a lot of people, like I used to play a GAA but never would have considered myself great at it, and I never wanted to join a well-established GAA club here because they all would have known each other for years. Like, I didn't want to be a blow-in. So this club is so good because it's gathered so many people, and obviously lots of people from East Belfast, like who were born in East Belfast as well, or people who have moved there. Like, it's just giving them like another wee community, especially during COVID. Like, a lot of people have been so lonely and isolated, and it's like one of the girls on our team, Niamh Jones, like, well, she's prioritising rugby now, but she's vice captain. She's captain of Malone Rugby Club, vice captain of Ulster, and she's been called up to the Ireland squad now. And she's from Ballymena. She had never played Gaelic in her life, and she like started for our champion squad, and she was the championship squad, and she was just unreal. And like, I just think that's class. That like, she would have never done that otherwise, because she lives in East Belfast now. And like, we got to meet her, like just got to meet so many people. And yeah, it's been difficult, obviously, because we had a bomb scare and stuff like that. But like, it honestly, I don't think it deterred anybody from coming back. Actually, more people might have came after that, got a bit of publicity. But yeah, it's been so good.
No, I read your article on Niamh, and it was fantastic. Like, just as like to see people like from different backgrounds and like different cultures, like because people you mentioned GAA, people think Irish and people think Ireland, and it's just or Catholic, and it's just a Republican thing and put out of the way. But the actual sport itself, like the actual rules and the way the game's played, is like, it's class, isn't it? It's just like, it's really enjoyable to play, and it's like, it is inclusive, because like the ball could be at the other end of the pitch and you're in right full back, and the left full forward, and you yourself are having a yarn there for 5 minutes while the ball's in the end of the pitch, and you end up meeting someone that you'd never met before. It just, the story of it for me was brilliant, and as I think the public response to it was well deserved, because of how popular of an unpopular decision it was, because so many people disagreed with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's still always going to be that small sort of minority that do disagree. But like, there's people that disagree with lots of stuff. As long as we just sort of ignore it and keep trucking along. Like, as well, like, and Niamh is like, I don't know, I keep going to Niamh, but there's other girls there who have played soccer or still playing in like the Irish Women's League. Girls that have played hockey. Girls that have played camogie but have never played football, and then like vice versa as well, because there's a camogie club within the club as well, like sort of intertransferable skills and stuff like that. But it's been so good for like a social aspect as well. Like, there was a girl, because some of the girls, like, they're like, a lot of girls have never played sports before at all, and they're like, we just want to give it a go. And like, one of the girls, she's Indian, and she moved to Belfast in March for work, and then lockdown happened and she never got to leave her house, never got to meet anybody. So she came along more or less just to actually meet people, rather than like, be competitive, which is grand too, because like, we have that many girls that there are like two teams, and one is purely just sort of like social, have a bit of crack, and the other one is like girls who are like, want to play competitive matches and stuff like that. But like, everyone gets on, and it's just, we can't have nights out now or anything, or team bonding because of COVID, but we're hoping to do that like next season.
Yeah, class. How many matches have you played?
I don't actually know. We had like a lockdown league there, but a lot of other teams dropped out, and we had played right the way, played all our championship games, and we're in the junior championship in Down, and then we had loads of friendlies, because so many clubs have been emailing because we are a new club and they're sort of like, you know, want to help us out, they've been emailing. So I've actually think we'll have to turn a few away because we had that many going on. But I actually couldn't even count, definitely like maybe 20, because the two teams as well have been having different, and that's just girls. Like I don't even know how many the hurlers and the camogues and the boys football team have had. Like
I know, I remember the first fellas match was against Maherlin, which is only 5 minutes away from where I live, and one of the fellas I work with, he played in the game and he says it was different. And like I seen like clips and pictures and all from it on Twitter, and there was competitive, you know, there was a bit of a scuffle and all that. And I'm like happy, like, you know, they're not just here to make up numbers, they're actually here and competing and putting in a good shift. And I think like especially with COVID and everybody's sports being cancelled, it could have been very easy for like go use to that side and go use to that side and then just stick to your own sports. But for like, and especially with a crest and you know, the motto underneath it, together, Lahela and together, it's like fantastic. And it like, I think it's exactly what the GAA needed is for its image, especially now, you know, Casement's been announced, you know, that could have kicked up such a fuss. People would have been annoyed by it, but the fact now that there's a club in East Belfast, it'll help that massively.
Yeah, and I actually think East Belfast, the club tweeted something about Casement Park 2, saying that it was like so great and stuff. It is cool as well because we all got to like vote on the crest and the training tops and the jersey, so like it really is like a club for the players. And like, it is cool being a part of history as well. Like hopefully it just keeps going.
No, if it keeps going the way it is, it'll be around for a long time. And the kit is class, by the way. The color scheme and everything is like proper nice gear. Like
it is nice. I've never had any yellow and black gear before, so that's because of the cranes. That's why it's yellow and black, because of the animal cranes.
No, cracker. Right, I feel like I definitely rambled on there for quite a bit, so we'll move into the questions that people sent in, and there's to cover a couple of different things, and then, as I say, we'll do the 3 number questions at the end. All right.
Grand.
All right. So Pete sent in 2 questions, and then one's about your boxing and one's about the football. So he says, did you ever feel under any threat or danger when you're playing for East Belfast? And what's your message to people who did have a problem with there being a new club in East Belfast?
So the bomb scare happened, and we genuinely thought that is all it was, a bomb scare. And then it turned out that there had been 2 like viable devices, which I think were like fireworks or something, under 2 of the boys' cars. So like at the time I was like, I didn't feel under threat. I got home from my training, but my boyfriend was still at boys training when the cops sort of arrived and told them everything. So I didn't feel under threat because I was like, well, I'm home and I'm gone now. Away from it. That was the only time that I got.
He's all right. Leave him there.
Yeah, I was a bit worried, but I did just think because there's so many bomb scares in Belfast now. Like I think half of them don't even get put in the news because there's that many. But this obviously was going to make the news because it's the East Belfast GAA club. So no, I never really felt under threat there. Like, I don't know, maybe if it was, like, put it this way, I don't think I'd still be comfortable now wearing the East Belfast GAA gear, like, in very loyalist areas, but, like, you're not going to wear GAA gear in very loyalist areas just the same way as, like, I'm sure they wouldn't wear Northern Ireland tops in very Republican areas. And it's just, it's really, really sad that is the way it is in 2020, because I know the majority of people wouldn't feel that way, but nah, genuinely, like, I actually love East Belfast. Like, I love my boxing club, I love the people from there. You know, they're all, I don't really care whether they're loyalist or Republican or Protestant or whatever. I think personally, I'm sure a lot of people did feel a bit threatened and a lot of people were neutered, but I think because of the boxing as well, because we do so much cross-community stuff and because we're in both very Republican areas and very loyalist areas, I don't know, I just think I'm sort of used to it. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
No, like the sound of a helicopter sitting on my roof, more or less, in Logan, and my mates will laugh at me because anytime I hear helicopter out, I describe it as being on my roof because it's that close. And they're like, oh, there's that helicopter out on Lavery's roof again. You know what I mean? They like to take the piss out of it. But like, as you said, when you become numb to it, like, you sort of like, oh, it's a bomb scare, it's dead on. But for someone, like, as you mentioned, that girl from India that come over, like, holy shit, there was a bomb. Like, what?
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't actually know what her thoughts were, but like, I'm sure, and the way that guy asked as well, you know, what would I say to people who do think it's wrong or whatever? Like, the guy, the thought a guy did it, he then got released. So maybe he probably didn't do it then, you know, I don't think he got charged or anything, but I think whoever did it was like acting alone. So it wasn't like associated with paramilitaries and stuff like that. I do feel like people that don't like it, like a lot of them are sort of like keyboard warriors, and they maybe give like 5-second thought to it, and they're like, you know, like really, really don't want this happening. But like, I think that is all it is, and it doesn't really go further. I think the majority of people, it's not even that the majority of people are for it. I just think a lot of people just don't care. Like, people just get on with their own lives. So like, for people that do think it's wrong, like, I would really like look inside themselves, be like, why do you think it's wrong? You know, do you think it's because is it because it's like an Irish sport and stuff like that? But like, we do have people of all different races and all different heritages and all different religions and ages. So like, I just think if something's making someone happy and getting them out of the house and improving their mental and physical health in any way, like, I don't really care if it's hockey, GAA, rugby, swimming, anything like that. So I just think people need to, like, it's just a sport. Like, it is just a sport.
Yeah.
That's just it. Like,
his second question then was back over to the boxing, and we sort of touched on it earlier, about the YouTubers and stuff. What's your thoughts on, as an amateur, of YouTube boxers coming into the sport and leapfrogging others and getting their way into a massive payday?
Oh Jesus, we actually talked about this in His and Hers Boxing, which is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all major streaming platforms. Yeah, like KSI and Logan Paul and all of that. Like, so there's two arguments to this, and I can kind of see. So one argument is, right, Eddie Hearn is really smart because a lot of young people are really into YouTube now, and like, they would watch Logan Paul and KSI's YouTube videos. So for them to do a boxing fight, that's introducing the actual sport of boxing to a new, younger audience. So in a way, as like a marketing play, it is very clever. And Eddie Hearn got like, I think, hundreds of thousands of new followers after that fight, because it was all these young people, you know, finding out who he is and stuff. So in a way, yeah, kind of. But then it's also like, right, but are them young people now going to go and watch, like, are they going to go Google Canelo, or are they going to go watch Canelo fight, or Lomachenko, or Fury, or Joshua? So like, I don't really think it worked in that way. I hate YouTubers in general. Like, I really, like, fair play to you, like, you've made so much money doing this, but I really don't like Logan Paul, because he's done like so, personally I just don't like him because he's done so much shit. And his boxing is just atrocious. Yeah, I think it definitely makes light of the sport. Like, I don't think people realize how much pro boxers especially have to sacrifice, and like pro boxers too. Like, I think it's still up, there's a documentary on BBC iPlayer about boxing in Northern Ireland, and like, whenever you become a pro boxer, it's not like you go and make millions straight away. Like, it takes such a long time. So it's so shitty for them boys who are obviously already millionaires because of YouTube to then come in and get an extra massive payday for a sport that they really don't respect. So you know what I mean? Like,
sort
I think,
took the mick out of.
Yeah, and then I just feel sorry for pro boxers who genuinely work so hard and are so much better and genuinely would be more entertaining to watch. But it's sort of the same way, like, McGregor fought Mayweather, and now is McGregor looking to fight Pacquiao, I think. Like, that's pure ripping the piss out of it too. But like, I did watch that McGregor Mayweather fight, and I was a bit like, oh my god, like, what if he does it, because Mayweather's so old now? But like, obviously, and then whenever he got beat, I was like, obviously there was
of course he was going to lose.
There was no other way that was going to happen, you know. And that's sort of like made a bit of light of the sport too. But then again, I suppose at least McGregor is a combat fighter of some sort. But yeah, I really don't agree with it. I didn't watch the YouTuber fights either, and I won't be watching them. But I just, and I feel like whenever we talk about them too, but like, they do have to be talked about. Like, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm actually wasting breath on this, because I hate giving them any more. Like, any publicity is good publicity for the bastards. So yeah, no, I
Pete, this was a great question. You have really got Niamh riled up. Really good question.
So I personally, like, fair play to them, stick to your YouTube, and well done. Like, you've made your money out of content creating. Like, that's not easy either, like, constantly posting like quality content and stuff. But I just feel like it's just too gimmicky for my liking. Yeah.
No, you answered one of the odd questions there as well. My cousin Declan in America, shout out to New Jersey Declan, he asked what your thoughts were on McGregor and Pacquiao. So just not overly fussed of the potential of it.
Like, that night, I like, you know, got up early, staying at my friend's house, went to bed for a while, got up to watch it like 4 a.m. I was like, oh my god, like, imagine this is also whenever I liked McGregor a bit more. McGregor, I don't really like him anymore. I think he's way too off the rails now. Respect him as a fighter, and the stuff he did is mental in his story, but I don't really like, he's too much of a header now. He's done lots of bad stuff as well, but yeah, again, I get it. I don't like personally don't like Mayweather either. Personality wise, respect him as a boxer too, but don't like him. Yeah, again, kind of gimmicky, but can see why they did it. And like, the thing is with McGregor too, like, do you know what MMA? It's obviously mixed martial arts, but a lot of them will focus on they'll have a main sport. So like whether it's wrestling or taekwondo, and I think the whole point was McGregor's main one was striking. So like boxing, I think that was the point behind all of that. So yeah, and being Irish too, I think, you know, you're like, obviously you're going to watch it and stuff, but I think it ran its course and it was grand and it happened, and like, yeah, it was good. But like, McGregor's now talking about fighting Pacquiao, who I think is in his 50s or near 50, and it's just like, no, like, enough, like, just like,
call it quits there.
Yeah, like, it's just too gimmicky again. Yeah, he wasn't actually too bad, McGregor, on the night. He kept sort of like turning around and grabbing Mayweather and trying to spin him around. I don't really know what he was trying to do, but it wasn't as bad as I think a lot of people thought he was going to be. But yeah, Mayweather's like possibly the best in the world. A lot of people would say he's the best of all time, so I don't really thought how any of us thought he was getting around that. But like, yeah, we can. So
it's a big no to the Pacquiao fight then?
No, per Pacquiao as well. Like, I really like Manny Pacquiao, but I think he just like, I don't even think he's doing it for the money anymore. Like, well, he says he'll give all the proceeds to the poor people in the Philippines, because he you know, senator there and stuff. He's come from poverty himself, so like, fair play to him that way. But I just think per Pacquiao like needs boxing. Like, I think a lot of pro boxers and fighters, like, whenever they retire, like, they don't really know what else to do because it's all they've ever known. And it's not even that they need the money, but they just need something. They need to be
stimulate them.
Yeah, need to be kept going. So yeah, but no, I'm not. I'll probably watch it. This is a thing, but I'm not. Don't worry, I'm not for it. Like,
just before we go to the next question, when we're talking about Irish MMA fighters, and with yourself being a Tyrone woman, what is your thoughts on the Strib animal and that horrendous accent that's going about?
I knew this was going to come up. Do you know what? So Lee had to go down, and Lee works for the BBC, and he did something with James a few years back when he was just starting out, and like, he's lovely, like, you know, he didn't have good things to say about him. That accent isn't put on. Like, it's not put on. Like, that is his accent. I think it's because he trains so much in Dublin and he's constantly between Strabane and Dublin, but I don't really get where the American twang is coming out of. Like, you know,
I watched that video too many times, and I just, like, I tweeted about it and everything, and I was just like, oh lad, come on. Like, if it's genuine, if that's how he talks, that's how he talks. But I cannot get the idea of him just sitting watching 100 hours of McGregor, just trying to like replicate it. And like the image as well of like, you know, I'll fight anybody.
Aye.
All right, lad.
I think as well because there was no fans there, so no one's like cheering him on. It's even more cringe. But like, it's not even just, it's combined with the accent, but it's just like his actual mannerisms and the things he says are too McGregor-esque. So I'm like, you need to sort of forge your own personality. I don't think he's actually trying to copy McGregor's accent maybe, but he's definitely trying to copy like the way he gets on and his mannerisms. So I think that combined with the accent isn't really helping him. But here, we're talking about him.
Yeah, so again, no, it's working. Any publicity is good publicity. So yeah. Fair play to you, and you knock the head off me any day, like, so I can say whatever I want about your accent. You still back
I do think he's good. I do think he's a good MMA fighter. He was injured there, and then Liam McCourt ended up topping his bill. I think it was his leg he done, and so I do think, like, I don't think he just talks talk. Like, I do think he is a good prospect. But yeah. I have a good feature, like, but yeah, that voice is funny, like.
Yeah. Fenty says, what sport do you find more demanding in terms of your preparation? Like, so would you, like, what's tougher, getting ready for a match or for a fight?
See, this is the thing too. Boxing had stopped whenever I went back to the GAA, and I remember being like, Jesus, this is so much harder than boxing. And then like, was like, really? And I was like, I do, like, there's so much running. But no, boxing is definitely more demanding. It's different types. Boxing's a lot more explosive. Like, I remember, like, in GAA training, we started doing these things where it was like, I don't know, if you dropped the ball, right, say you dropped the ball 10 times during a drill, you have to do 10 burpees, and loads of the girls were like, 10 burpees, that's loads. And I was like, we genuinely do like 40, a night at least in boxing, and that's without punishments. Like, and we can get punishment burpees too, and they're proper, like, because burpees are such like an explosive, like, plyometric exercise, because boxing's all about like on your toes and being explosive. Gaelic, I feel, Gaelic is still so fit. Like, I know ladies Gaelic is meant to be a non-contact sport too, but it's so physical. Like, you have to be strong and you have to be really quick. But I think boxing's harder because, like, again, you can't get wee breaks in a match. You can't get a break sparring or a break in a fight, because you'll literally get your head bit off you. So yeah, I think boxing's definitely harder. And I think, like, the whole act of boxing is hitting and not getting hit, and so much adrenaline is going through you, and so much thoughts are going through you about, like, right, when will I slip, when are they going to throw, that actually that's part of, like, the tiring out process. So I do think two completely different, and I'd say I'm better at boxing than Gaelic, definitely, but maybe that's why I think this as well. But it's just two completely different types of fitness. But I would personally think boxing.
Yeah. The next couple of questions we've sort of already answered them. My cousin Darren asked, who inspired you to take up boxing, and your favorite boxer of all time? I know you mentioned that it was sort of the white collar that your boyfriend was doing that sort of got you into that. And then my brother asked, what made you realize that boxing is the sport you wanted to do, which is sort of similar. So unless there's anything you want to clear up about them, I feel like we've covered them. Yeah,
no, we have covered them. Just, I think boxing again, because you're sort of on your own and you're fully accountable, and it's such a thinking sport. I think a lot of people too think that to be a boxer you have to want to be really violent, and you have to have, like, a real bad streak in you. Like, I think it's actually the opposite. Like, if you go into a boxing ring and you're raging, and, you know, this is why, like, I'm not even just saying this, like, female boxers tend to, when they're starting out, if you, like, were training a boy and a girl in boxing, a girl will tend to pick it up far quicker and far better, because a girl will listen much more and be like, right, this is what I need to do. You know, a boy will say they listen, but then a boy gets in and the testosterone kicks in, and they just want to, like, kick the head off each other, and everything else goes out the window. So yeah, actually, you can't go into a boxing ring being angry. You actually have to be quite calm, because you really need to think, because it's about hitting and not getting hit. So yeah, I think that's the reason I like all of it, is just there's so much intricacies with it. That's
one thing I never thought about, going into a boxing ring angry. See, I always would have thought you need to go in there raging, wanting to knock someone out, but then makes sense. What's the best fight? This was actually asked to both of us, but what's the best fight you've ever seen live? Now, my answer would probably be two fellas who I'll not name after school, because I've never actually been to a live event. But yeah, what's the best fight you've ever seen live?
So at the start of September last year, we saw Lomachenko versus Niamh Campbell in the O2 in London, which was just being in the O2, first of all, it's unreal. And then Lomachenko is, like, pound for pound, well, I personally think a lot of people think this pound for pound best in the world right now. Like, in years to come, he will be, like, a bit like Ali or Tyson, you know, like, he'll go down, like, the Hall of Fame. He's Ukrainian as well, and we were sitting beside these Ukrainian lads, and, like, Niamh Campbell's English. Like, this is our thing as well. We went to, because we were like, well, we're skint at the time, we're like, well, we'll go or not. But then it was like, he always fights in Vegas and stuff. Like, he will probably never fight in the UK again, so this is, like, you know, our cheapest one-off chance to go see him. So we were sitting beside these Ukrainian fellas, and they just assumed we were supporting Campbell. We're like, no, we love Lama. And because they were from Ukraine, they were like, what? Like, people outside Ukraine actually support him. Like, they just couldn't get over this. And then, oh God love them, they were so cute. They had, like, the Ukrainian flag and all. And I got pictures with them in it all. They were like, can we get a photo of you? Because people in Ukraine aren't going to believe the two Irish people are supporting Lama. So yeah, he's unreal. Like, he's different. He is world class. Like, he's different class of his own. So that was unreal.
Cracker. Right, well, that's all the questions that everybody sent in, and thanks everybody for getting involved again. If you want to, like, the next podcast, whatever else, Michael Lavery 98 on Twitter and the McLav podcast on Instagram. I'm always putting polls and whatever else up on there. So we'll finish, I call it the gauntlet, and it sounds a hell of a lot more daunting than what it actually is, but it was the only name I could think of whenever trying to think of the name of a segment. So I have a list here, 1 to 20, and they're completely harmless, completely random, just stupid questions about anything, not even sports related, or mostly about what we've spoke about, could be anything. If you want to pick out 3 numbers for yourself, and then I'll ask them, any numbers between 1 and 20.
Right, I'll go for 3, 7, and 13.
3, 7, and 13. Unlucky for some. Right. Question 3. What's the favourite place you've ever been?
Favorite place I've ever been?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, New York City.
See, I am down to go to New York City, so we'll not talk about too much about that because I'll end up getting jealous.
It was 10 years ago. I was 16 and I really want to go back, but I don't know what the crack is. I think America's like burning to the ground at the minute, but yeah, it was unreal.
On the shed. Question 7 is, what's your favourite film?
Oh Jesus, there's way too many. I'll go for, I'm purely going for this one just because I love Leonardo DiCaprio, but like Shutter Island, say.
Fair enough. And then the last one is, what's your favourite pizza toppings?
I know, I am a pure weirdo. Pepperoni and olives, like black olives. They're great because I used to work in a pizzeria, so I got to try all of the weird pizza toppings that I would never like have the balls to order myself. Yeah. I was like, olives and pepperoni are great.
I'll let it slide, like, but it's definitely not something I would have ordered.
Try it. It's really nice.
Maybe takes a wee bit more convincing. Right, so pick out 3 numbers there for me and I'll answer them and then we'll get this wrapped up.
Right, okay. I'm going to go 1, 10 and 20.
1, 10, 20. Start, middle and end. Happy days. Right, number 1 is, what's my favourite song? Even I don't know. I like Hall of Fame by The Script. I listened to it and then I could run through a wall. Or else the Sunday Game theme song, which people that listen to this podcast know, both of which will make me want to run a mile.
Motivational. Like
yeah. Question 10. Would I rather go to America or Australia? 100 million% America. Yeah. Absolutely no questions. Now, question 20. Dark milk or white chocolate? White chocolate every day of the week. Absolutely.
Milky buttons.
Oh, don't even start. Because I just got a care package, and massive shout out to my Auntie Rachel and Uncle Eamon. They've just sent me a care package over here, and inside here is some cozy cake, and only people from Lurgan will understand how precious this is. This is the nicest cake under the sun. I've also got some soda and potato farls, which are in extremely short supply over here in Derby. So when I tell you I'm buzzing, I can't wait later on for my supper to toast a wee bit of soda and have a cup of tea.
Loads of butter, like real butter.
Absolutely. The ones I live with are probably going to think I'm metal. They probably do already because the amount of cheese that's in my fridge, but that's a conversation for a different time.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Yeah. Right, folks. That'll do it for this episode of the McLav podcast. I know we've rambled on quite a bit, but hopefully you stuck with us and listened to all the nonsense that came out of it. It's been a lot of fun, and I just want to say a massive thanks to yourself, Niamh, for coming on. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did too.
No, I did. Thank you so much for having me. Privilege.
No, second ever guest. So whenever the McLav Podcast Hall of Fame is created somewhere, we'll put your name up there as the first 5 guests that we're ever on.
Excited, definitely, and I'll save this and put this up on any sort of portfolio I have as well. The YouTube video, buzzing. Thank you very much. And for anyone watching, listening, as I said, follow, subscribe on all the places that have been mentioned before. And I'll see you all in the next episode of the McLav Podcast.